I think we're gonna get Libra risings tonight. What about you?
You're gonna get bullshit.
Uh, be nice. All right,
What?
let me refresh this page.
It says we're live. It says we're live. It's
We're like,
raining men. I don't even know if that's how the song goes. I don't remember. Care Bears. Care Bears. Ooh, there's Astro Witch.
hi,
Hey. Her.
happy Moon Day.
Moon Day. I'll give you a Moon Day. You know what song I love? Is Blue Monday by New Order. How does it feel to treat me like you do when you lay your hands upon me and tell me who you are? Oh, Astro Witch says, listen, I've been itching for a synastry reading. Would you have time for that madness? Yeah, of
Of
course.
anything for you.
Anything for you, sweetheart. We were going to do like half an hour to talk about Mars entering Aquarius and therefore, conjoining Pluto, which is a big fucking deal.
Can you drop your synastry information below? So your date, time, city, and your partner's date, time, and city, and names. If you don't want to use names, we can just use initials or anything. It doesn't matter. So
And
I can take
like
note of it.
the stream, like the stream. Rosie, hello, Rosie. My lovely Rosie. I love Rosie. She knows I love her.
Hi, Rosie.
She's one of those Midwest type girls that I fall for.
You'll never stop shading the Midwest girls, will you?
I'm not shaming. I love them. I'm a sucker for them. I'm a sucker for, I almost said, I'm a sucker for Midwest hood girls, basically. And it's just, and Rosie's gorgeous. She's beautiful. Do I have Cash App? It doesn't work for some reason. You can either do through YouTube, you could do through PayPal, you can do through Venmo. Um, but we have the super chats and the super thanks through YouTube, which are lovely. And please like the stream.
Yes, please like, sub, and comment the stream. It helps the algorithm.
Rosie says she loves us both, but she better love me more. You better love me more, Rosie. You better love me more, Rosie. Anyway, let me talk about this bullshit first so we can get that out of the way. Or should we be getting them out of the way? She's like, yeah, she sips her 40 ounce. And look at my prissy little butt as I sip my apple juice through a straw so I don't mess up my cute lip. Mm. And please, we have bumper stickers. I'll send you one for free if you put it on a vehicle and take a picture. We got to make astrology sexy again. Is it backwards in the camera?
No.
Okay, because on mine it's backwards. It's backwards. Anyway, is this okay, Rosie and Astrowitch, if I really quickly talk about, because I'm going to clip this like as a separate video with some shit in it? Or should I do them first? Why don't I just do them first and then I'll talk about this stuff? How
Go
about that?
ahead.
Do you have their information?
I
Rosie,
sure
pardon?
I do.
Did you get Rosie's info?
I have Astro Witch, and I'm waiting for Rosie to type hers out.
And put you and me over here. Thank you. You are so sweet, Astro. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, I do share tips with Amber. So in case you think I'm a miserly bitch, I am. But Amber scares me a little bit, and I need her help. So I have to make sure.
I'm not that bad.
No, you're not. I give you more shit than any. I'm I'm not that mean to Amber. I'm just a little mean to Amber.
Depends on the day.
It depends on the day. I'm very moody. I know I was in a really bad mood the other day, and you kept saying, like, I had to go to urgent care because I was sick. And I was sitting there waiting, and I'm like, I really wanted a beer and a bowl. I think I want to go buy some, or whatever. And Amber's like, well, don't do that until you get seen. And I'm like, I'm in the fucking waiting room, yo. How
And I
would
was
I go get any of that before I got seen? Like, I'm sitting here in the exam room, you know. And I don't know what that was mean. Anyway, so let's do the synastry. And then Rosie, please put your information in the chat for Amber so she can write it down and feed it to me. What? Why are you laughing? What's going on?
my spouse just walked in the door.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, here, let me pull up some shit.
You
Let me
little
pull this up. Pull this up. Okay, I'll tell you when I'm ready. Okay, so Astro Witch. Okay, what's her birth date?
Do you want to do Rosie's first, or do you want to do Astro Witch? Because she's wanting a synastry done.
Oh, okay, well, let's do Rosie then.
Okay. Wow. Her birthday isn't complete. Rosie, I need a date,
Well,
time.
let me do the synastry first while Rosie puts her thing in.
I need it all together in just one message.
What? Just read it to me. I mean, can you?
No, it's not complete.
No, I mean Astro Witch.
No, Astro Witch I can.
Yes, so read me Astro Witch, please.
Okay. Thank you again for another donation. You're so sweet.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so if you want to put Astro Witch as Astro Witch, you can. So her birthday is April 9th of 1990.
Okay.
Oberlin, Ohio.
No. Daytime city.
Oh, 9:59 a.m.
9:59 a.m.
Oberlin,
Ohio.
yes.
Okay, thank you. And then
Okay,
partner?
is November 7th,
No,
1982, 4:15 p.m. in Columbus, Ohio.
4:15 p.m. Columbus. And then Rosie, please get
I'm writing it down.
What's that?
I got her stuff. I'm writing it down now.
Okay, good. I just can't see what's going on right now.
I'll protect you.
You don't need to protect me from Rosie.
Oh, Rosie has the same birthday as my great grandma.
Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah, Rosie's so sweet. I like Rosie. I sure like Rosie. Here, let me pull up this and then share my screen. Share my screen, share my screen, share my screen. Share my screen, share my screen, share my screen. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see it. Let me see. Can I still see the chat somewhere? Can I still see the chat somewhere? Okay. So, well, when it comes to synastry, my dear Astrovich, one of the main things that I always look at are just, I get a sense of each person's natal chart, just, their temperament and such. And I look at the condition of their seventh house ruler and what sort of psychological baggage they're going to be bringing in with them. So, of course, that includes Saturn and Pluto stuff, So the first thing that pops out to me when I look at your chart is, oh, look, Pluto square Mars. Pluto is square Mars. These people have a lot of baggage, don't you, sweetheart? Because life fights you every which way. It's like nothing comes easy. I think of people who have to who feel like they have to load their weapons and put on armor to go to the grocery store. These are people who have an explicit sense of life sort of fighting them, And especially, oh goodness gracious, There's a couple of things. And we won't belabor this too much, but Saturn in the 8th house, Amber has that too. These are people who get accustomed with loss growing up. It can be financial loss, growing up without a lot, growing up poor, or your parents lose their money or something. And oftentimes it's also an experience of death before your Saturn return. The 8th house ruler is in the 8th house. So, it also has traumatic stuff to deal with. I usually look at the house that the 8th house ruler is in as being indicative of someone who dies in your life before your Saturn return. Excuse me. But in this case, the 8th house ruler is in the 8th house. Oftentimes we see it have to do with trauma and fear and all that sort of thing, or our dads are involved in shady shit, criminal enterprises or selling drugs or something, or dare I say, will abuse, But anyway, but it's still, this is a cool thing in a way because it gives you will. You do persevere. And you're a Pisces Venus. That's so sweet. I love Pisces. I love Pisces Venus because they're usually subs. Even when they're Plutonian, they're still subs. And they love it when you ruin their makeup. When you make their mascara and their eyeliner run. Ruin their lips. Call them all sorts of filthy names. I love it. I love it. I love it. But anyway, so you see, you bring some of that Plutonian stuff, but you're also basically a full moon baby, Full moon babies have something to prove. And it's sort of difficult when you're an Aries sun with a Libra moon like me, or like you, but I have a Libra moon too. And so these people get very attached and have a tendency to be codependent, right? They really want to be liked. And the 7th house ruler in your case is Jupiter. Jupiter's exalted in the 2nd house. So that would tell me you probably, have a good relationship at some point in your life, Perhaps a marriage or a long-term partnership. Excuse me. Chiron in the 2nd house also indicates you probably grew up poor or with a lack of resources, but Jupiter ruling the 7th house and in the 2nd house. Number one, it's good for your own financial situation, but you need a partner of your own socioeconomic class. That's what you need, not someone who's taking from you, because you have an 8th house Saturn. 8th house Saturn is prone to loss, to getting into debt, or lending or giving too much, you see? Right, giving people your stuff, giving it away, sharing your resources. It's okay to share, just not with people who exploit you or who take advantage of you. So that's what you have to remember there.
See, Frankie, you're calling me out because I'm a Care Bear and I just want to share, but I know that I can't share with everyone. That's the most difficult thing. But I also have Chiron in the 2nd house too, so I can relate both ways.
Yeah, let's bring up the partner. Well, yeah, I mean, you know about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's difficult, but it makes you a stronger person, really. You just have to be very wary of who you keep around you. That's probably the number one thing.
Yeah, right. Who you're trusting with your stuff. I mean, you definitely know there's certain people you wouldn't trust with your stuff. Okay, hold on. Share my screen. Does anyone remember Enya? You're too young for that shit, but Enya was dope. Sail away, sail away, sail away. That's why we say share my screen, share my screen, share my screen. I think she's Irish.
I'm also partly Irish.
Yo, fucking Astro Witch's partner would probably fall in love with me.
Oh God.
I'm sorry, just all this fucking Scorpio shit. That's my Cancer Venus.
Far away from the screen to look, but if you say Scorpio shit, that makes me excited.
Well, and it's all in the 8th house. Apparently, this person is an Aries rising. Very unhappy Venus. That's difficult. Well, the interesting thing, number one, that I notice is that the seventh house ruler is Venus. Venus is in the eighth house. Typically, this is someone who likes the bad girls, you know, the dangerous girls. Or, I mean, I'm assuming girls because I'm assuming you're a girl and they're into you. But they like the bad girls, the dangerous girls, the women of the night. Or those of us who do, you know.
The harlots.
Yeah, those of us who make extra income with our body. If you know what I mean. I just do it virtually, you know, but all power to them who do the whole thing, you know. But anyway, so, I mean, yeah, prostitution. I mean, someone who likes prostitutes is something that and I'm sorry, but it's what it is oftentimes. The eighth house is like, you know, other people's stuff, and it's also criminal enterprises. But anyway, it's not just that, and I'm kind of being tongue in cheek, but it's people who, you know, like the dangerous, you know, exciting, dangerous types. Excuse me. But it can also be very cathartic in people who want to share the depth of their experience, their trauma, right? You know, we got to share all our baggage together. But it can't become a morbid type thing, you see. Anyway, what other stuff does this person have in their chart?
They're Leo like me.
Pardon?
They're a Leo moon like me.
Yeah, Leo moon. So, of course, these people, their natural reaction is going to be to assert themselves, right? They're typically right, or they take themselves to be right. And they can be very reactive, you see.
A house moon, too.
Pardon?
Fifth house moon. I wonder if they're very creative.
They're very sexual, is what they
Well,
are.
sexual too, but I always think of the creative first.
The first thing I think of is sex, but that's with everything. That's with literally everything. But the fifth house primarily was children and sex. Creativity was sort of an afterthought because how the fuck do you make children? You know, sex. It's a creative act. You're creating something. But let's go to stop laughing at me. You think I'm mean, and I'm not mean. She was making fun of me for because someone had a Libra Mars, and I'm like, well, you're wishy-washy.
No, it was a Libra moon like you.
Oh, it's a Libra moon like me. And I said, well, you're wishy-washy, number one. And she keeps
My
bringing
walk
up,
out across the room, and then she said I was being dramatic about it.
yo, wishy-washy, first of all, isn't like a terrible thing. It's not like I called them a slur.
Well, that's fair, but
Anyway, this person has Chiron in the second house too. So there's been this mutual thing with resources, you see. Excuse me, 10th house ruler is Saturn in the 7th house. It's exalted and angular. So they're probably somewhat successful. They also have a very prominent Mars up here, exalted in Capricorn, conjunct the midheaven. And Mars rules the first house. So they're probably somewhat successful or prominent in some way. I haven't been able to see the chats. I don't know if you've been talking shit at me or mad or what. So
no,
well, I hope they're into me. Scorpios are hard to peg. Girl, peg me. I'm the one who needs to be pegged. Shit. God damn. I tell you.
it's very weird that my comments aren't refreshing. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to look at it from my iPhone then.
It's been a week for me now. I thought I was going to have fun this past weekend and I didn't because I was sick and I stayed home. So now it's been a week and I'm getting agitated. And yes, I still take care of myself, but it's still not enough. It's never enough. I have a fifth house Mars and Sun together with my North Node. Anyway, so we got to pull up the synastry shit. We got to pull up this synastry shit.
We love you.
Who, me?
No, Astro Witch said she loves us.
Oh, yeah, we love her too. I'm like, you better fucking love me, Jesus. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Frankie's Veruca Salt remade over.
I am Veruca Salt. I want an Oompa Loompa. I want an Oompa Loompa now.
I want a blueberry.
This is why I love hooking up with couples, because they tend to spoil me. I just met another couple, so I might have 3 going on now.
That's what you should do for Halloween.
A couple? I should be a couple for Halloween.
Veruca Salt.
Damn.
That'd be so cute on you.
What would be so cute on me?
Being Veruca Salt.
Oh, that would be cute as fuck. I thought you were talking about me being a couple.
No, hell, you are a Gemini, so you could make it happen if you wanted to.
So I'm gonna do the Synergy grid, but it's gonna look weird probably. I don't know. We'll see. And is Rosie still here, sweetheart? I want to make sure Rosie's still here.
Okay, well, I'm watching the comments, so if she pops back up. Yeah, she's here.
Okay, cool. So anyway, we look at the bad stuff first with the Synastry grid. So that means I focus on Saturn, Pluto, and Mars. Number one, you know what? I'll get to that in a second. Number one, some bad shit that I think is rough. Okay, your Saturn is square their ascendant. So that means a couple of things. Number one, it makes it very hard to get together. Number one, it's like, we might like each other or be super interested, but circumstances keep intervening. But then once we are together, then we're sort of stuck together for good or for ill. And sometimes we want to break up and we really can't. And it could be from several different environing circumstances. Maybe there's children involved or money that's being shared, or we can't afford to live apart. But something tends to bind us together, albeit uncomfortably so sometimes. You see? So that's something you have to be aware of. That can be quite difficult, but it is a very binding thing. You see? It is a very binding thing. Difficult. Mars.
I see Moon opposite the North Node.
Yeah, stop. What do you want to say about that? Tell me.
It's a no-no, but that's all I'm gonna say.
It's a no-no. Why?
Because I had this with somebody, and it turned out to be a very abusive relationship.
That means
And
the moon is conjunct the south node. How is that indicative of abuse?
I'm saying that I've been through this, and the people I've read and had Sinistry read for, this was something that popped up, but there were also
I'm just
Mars square
asking,
Venus and Saturn aspects and Pluto aspects, but
I wonder what else was happening in the chart besides that could be indicative of that, because I would never think of the moon on the south node as being abusive. I wouldn't. What I think of the moon on the south node as is a sense of familiarity, like having known each other from the past. And it's very compelling because it feels like you've always known the person and like they always know you. And that can be the fertile ground to let abuse happen or to be in an abusive circumstance, because we keep rationalizing these things by our intense feelings. Because moon on the south node feels like, oh my God, I've always known this person. They're from a past life or another place. It's just this incredible depth of familiarity. And I've had this several times myself. But I didn't have it in an abusive situation. So I would wonder what else was going on in those situations that would have indicated that, or in the synastry rather. And I would always look not for the moon, but I'd look for Mars and Saturn first, and then Pluto and Uranus. contacts. You see? But anyway, Mars square the sun, well, it's a wide orb. It's really not that bad. It's a wide orb, but it can cause conflicts, you see. Because Mars gets agitated with how the sun presents itself oftentimes. You know, either it's too showy or too whatever. Like, why are you showing off? And then Mars gets mad, you know, because that's what Mars does. But there's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff too. So, I mean, there's good stuff for a long-term relationship. We've got Saturn trine Venus. I had this with someone I was married to, you know. Doesn't always end up well, but it is a good indicator of a long-term thing in a committed relationship, and mostly a stable one. I say mostly because, you know, you guys both have some wacky stuff in your natal charts. But there's also some weird stuff too. And I say weird because their Uranus is like really closely square your Venus, which is oftentimes an unconventional relationship, either with kink, like dominance and submission, or polyamory, you know, or open relationships, or whatever, or swinger, you know, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm having fun in all these communities, so I just get lonely. Like, I want a real emotional relationship at some point. You know, like fucking strangers at orgies is only cool for so long. And then it's like, I want to have, I mean, I'll still want to do that. But I want someone who loves me. You know, I want someone who loves me. But see, the reason I love couples is because couples, they give you attention. And I love attention. I love it. Obviously, I love attention. I love attention. Anyway. And then any aspects between Mars and Venus are interesting. Even the hard aspects. And they could still be very attractive, you see. Because when I see Mars square Venus, now it's, you know, a 5-degree orb, so a wider sort of orb. But when I see Mars square Venus, I think of a game of cat and mouse, you see. But in this case, it's the mouse that's chasing the pussy, isn't it? Well, I mean, you would be chasing here because you're the Mars person, but we have like sexual games we play back and forth, or we agitate each other. There's a pursuit, an active chase. There's friction involved, you see, which is fun in the beginning, you know, it's the pursuit. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. You know, we send each other nasty little text messages like, I'm gonna do this to you. I'm gonna do that to you. I'm gonna take your, you know what? I'm gonna, you know, and I'm gonna, and then, and we describe this stuff so we get each other all hot and bothered before we get home. It's the kind of energy I think of with that sort of thing. But after a while, you see, it sort of degenerates into a conflict and a competition, right? So the Mars person might get jealous of the Venus person, accuse them of doing this or doing that, you know, or being too attractive, or flirty with other people, you see. So there's a jealousy thing that can happen with this over the long term. So it's just something to be aware of. It doesn't have to be, but it often is. And we should move on to Rosie. Oh, but his Pluto is trine your Venus. This is one of my favorites. Very hot, very sexual, very obsessive, you see. And even though it's a trine, it's one of my favorite aspects in synastry because I love sex. And I love like weird sex. And like, you know, craziness and passion at the same time and power involved. We see power dynamics and BDSM type stuff with that. which can be wonderful, or it cannot be so wonderful. Oh, and the North Node trine Venus. Yeah. See, this is like very compelling. And there's not a lot of bad stuff, to be honest with you. And then look at this. Holy shit. Fuck. Venus conjunct Pluto. And the sun conjunct Pluto. So you're both the Plutonian people. And you probably more so, because look at this orb. It's 1 degree. This is one of the dopest aspects in fucking synastry because it's hot as fuck. I mean, this looks like some good sex. I want to watch almost. I mean, even though I prefer to be a participant, but you know what I'm saying? This is a lot of intensity. It's a lot of intensity. But there's a sense of ownership and possessiveness too that can be very difficult. So I wonder if your partner sometimes feels like you're overwhelming them, like you're sort of suffocating. Like, do you suffocate them or do you feel like you own them? I had a partner, one of my exes before I came out. She straight up told me, like, the first couple weeks we were together, she's like, I feel like you're my property. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so hot. That's so hot. But then after a while, it came out that, I mean, it was really true. And not just in a fun, hot way. It was like, I'm being treated like an object, a thing, which, I mean, that's great in the right context, but anyway. But you see, there's a lot of good stuff here. It's just a lot of intensity and a lot of sense of like fate and destiny and all these sorts of highfalutin things. So it's like we take ourselves way too seriously. This relationship needs fun. It needs levity, right? See, there's Mars sextile Venus here. There's so many sexual things going on. I mean, it looks really hot. I'm sort of jealous, but you see, you just have to watch out for these pitfalls with conflict because of a sense of one person trying to control the other. You see? So I hope that's informative because we should really look at Rosie now. Let me look at the chat to see what they say. And hopefully Rosie's still here because we have to get to Rosie. And I do want to talk about. Thank you for bringing your magic to the world, you and Amber. Thank you.
Oh, thank
You are so sweet. You are so sweet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Saturn girls, the Holy Grail. I am the Holy Grail. Fill me with the Holy Spirit, please. I need to get filled up. That would be lovely. I just need to get filled. Like an eclair, So.
Or a Krispy Kreme donut.
I mean, yeah, I'm sort of bougie, so I say eclair, but yeah. But yes, you're exactly right, Amber. And we should do Rosie. I would love to do it.
Well, I'm ready, Miss Ma'am.
I would love to do Rosie. That's such a cute name too, Rosie.
Rosie Posey.
It's such a cute name.
Ring around the Rosie.
Oh, Rosie. Okay, what's her birthday?
July 3rd, 1982.
That's right, she's a Cancer. Be my mommy, please, Rosie. I need a mom. July 3rd, 1982, and she's my
10:59 p.m.
She's like exactly a year older. 10 what?
10:59
Uh-huh.
p.m.
Uh-huh, thank you.
Kenosha,
Kenosha.
Wisconsin.
I know Kenosha. She's a Midwest girl. Midwest girls. And I know Rosie's got a lot of shit going on right now. I know she do. Oh, shit. This put her at 1 degree Pisces rising.
That's
So
what she
told me she's 29 degrees Aquarius rising.
Oh, okay, she corrected it. She said 10:54.
Okay, so edit. 10:54. Car 54, where are you? None of you know what that fucking means. I just had to watch that shit with my grandparents, Car 54. I had to watch tons of old TV because I'm Saturn. Everything I do is old. Where do I share my screen? Let me see if Astro Witch. You're amazing and went above and beyond. Well, you were so sweet. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. I hope it was good stuff. I hope it was good for you as it was for me. Okay. Rosie, my love. My dear Rosie. We're sharing my screen. So here's Rosie's chart. She's Aquarius rising like me, but on the very end. So number one, the big thing, I know Rosie's got a bunch of shit going on, and I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know. But one thing I do want to mention really quick is the eclipses are now oscillating between your third and ninth houses. You see? So the one in April is going to be in your third house of siblings, media, communications, all that sort of stuff, short journeys, your immediate community. So I think this does have a lot to do with your brother. And we've talked a little bit about that situation, right, with your brother. And I think you're going to see a whole new beginning with that starting in April. Now, I know that you've already gotten some information about that particular situation, but something that there's going to be a big new beginning with this whole thing that has to do with your siblings that starts in April. And then in September, or rather October, October, we're going to have that eclipse in Libra, which will be in your ninth house, which that indicates your beliefs are sort of being shattered, right? What you believe, what you thought, your worldview, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's more than that, but all that stuff is just being sort of ripped away from you and you're sort of starting over, and life is always tough for you, sweetheart. It always is. Pluto, Saturn, Mars, basically, they're within 10 degrees. So we'll call it a stellium, a classic stellium. 3 planets conjunct in the same sign. But this is a very difficult one. And actually, you have a wide orb, but we could still say Pluto conjunct Mars. And that's what we're having happen right now, Pluto conjunct Mars. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And maybe I can use your chart as sort of an opportunity to talk about that. Well, I don't want to waste your time. So I'll do this after. But it's quite interesting because we already know that you've had to struggle a lot for what you've had. You have to struggle for, in general, like life just fights you. And things can be quite difficult. It always feels like there's a new challenge to get over. But at the same time, I hate to say it, but it builds character. On the one hand, oh God, you're a Sag moon too, my darling. Oh goodness. Goodness me, your sun is conjunct my Venus. My Venus is conjunct your North Node. I wish your Gemini Venus was closer to my Mars. Technically, it's 6 degrees away, so it's still conjunct. I bet we'd still start a fucking fire, yo. It would be like filthy, awful, like disturbing. Like that fire would be disturbing. We'd make it disturbing. Anyway, I gotta stop. And dad issues too with Chiron in the 4th house, you see. Terrible dad issues. But with and maybe dad was abusive too. I know we've talked about all this stuff. I don't want to belabor it, but you feel me.
Hi, Nettie. Thank you for coming.
Who?
Nettie.
Oh, I can't see.
No, I know. I'm just shouting her out.
Okay. Anyway, and then Moon is relatively conjunct Neptune. So I always worry about addiction stuff with that, sweetheart. You're a popular girl. People like you. You can be the life of the party. It's so funny. My mom is a Cancer with a Sag moon too. I'm so Freudian. I'm like, oh, please, mommy. Rosie, be my mommy. um,
Nettie said if you have some time, it's my birthday today.
oh,
Happy
happy
birthday.
birthday. Wonderful. Well, we'll have time. We'll make time.
Will you drop your info in the comments, please?
No, you better read their mind. So
I'm sorry. Hey, Nettie, I need to break into your house and steal your birth certificate so I can satisfy Frankie. So
That's
if you could
not what
send your
satis-
address. So if you could send your address and money for a plane and an Uber. I don't know where you live at, but
I hate to break it to you, Amber. That's not how I get satisfied. Anyway,
well, I'm not a psychic or an empath.
you don't have to be a psychic to understand what drives me. So I'm a pretty simple person. Anyway, I'm a pretty simple person. Her Mars and her Saturn and her Pluto are conjunct my moon. Like, holy shit. That would be dangerous. That would be dangerous. But anyway, all that stuff in the ninth house, if this really is you being Aquarius rising and you really have all this stuff in the ninth house, I mean, spirituality is sort of like this struggle your whole life because we struggle with God. There's a love-hate relationship with God. I know because I have this too. I oscillate between being an atheist and a very spiritual kind of person. And I've sort of reconciled the two by not really caring about God either way. And it really just has to do with existence. But you see, with these kind of things, there's a quest for meaning. And oftentimes we get a terrible experience of religion as children. You know, either our parents are very religious or like in a violent way. Like my parents were like super Catholic. And they told me when I was like 10, if you're ever gay, you're not our child. You know, I knew I was trans and bi by the time I was 5. You know, like I just knew I was attracted to. So, and I knew what I was. So it's very difficult when your environing circumstances, your home, that which is supposed to be most secure and close to you, makes you feel like you're an other or you're wrong or you're evil in some way. My mom used to call me a demon child. In fact, she called me one when she was staying with me, you know. It's like old habits sort of come up again. And my parents were very religious and at the same time, very nasty people, you know, or could be. So, but you have that 4th house Chiron. Anyway, the big elephant in the room is 2 things. Number one, all the shit, the entourage going into Aquarius in your 1st house. So you see, you've been in the same boat that I've been in for a little while. It's been depressing. Maybe you've gotten sick, but all this stuff, Venus, Mars, Mercury, all having gone through your 12th house, makes us feel isolated. It makes us feel depressed and melancholy.
Rosie said she had one of her hands amputated.
Oh, I know. I know. And I'm awful because I think that's so hot. But she knows that. All right. I'm awful. I'm really awful. Anyway. But yeah, so, you know, and you can look at that too with the 6th house stuff, unfortunately, you know. Unfortunately. But anyway, all the stuff entering her 1st house here, it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be invigorating. It's going to be enlivening. It's going to make you feel more optimistic. But you have to be careful here because as soon as Mars enters your first house, which is happening in just a few hours, you're going to get, a sense of drive and direction. You're going to want to rush around perhaps, and you're going to maybe hurt yourself by rushing too much. So this is really a time to be attentive and not to be too impulsive, because we're going to want to fly off the handle. We're going to feel more confident. We're going to feel a bit more assertive. We're going to feel more badass, especially after feeling agitated and so lonely and shit for a while. So just don't overdo it. Like, try and be aware when you're getting too excited. Always pay attention when you're using dangerous equipment and stuff like that. You don't want to lose the other hand. I'm awful. Shh. God damn it. Amber, that you can ding me for. That you can ding me for. That's a step above wishy-washy. So wait, what's Rosie saying? I know Rosie knows car 54. Car 54, where are you?
She said, yeah, we did, and I really hope he did. He told me he loved me today. Aw.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh my, it does one hand remind me. Oh my, and it does one hand remind you I'm an amputee. I know, sweetheart, and I hate that I don't hate, I love that I'm attracted to different things, but I just feel like I'm being not very nice. Your dad was full Irish Catholic, like my family. Yeah. You went to Irish Catholic church and it was awful. Yeah, I totally feel you, sweetheart. I totally feel you. I will take that advice, and I don't care if you rustle my Jimmy about my. I'm not rustling you, sweetheart. I think you're gorgeous. I think you're gorgeous. I'm not rustling you. I just made a really awful joke.
Oh no, she's
Huh?
talking to Rosie. I'm saying that you love her.
Oh, she knows I love her. She knows I love her. She already knows that. She's got terrible anxiety, though, with Mercury opposite Moon. Anyway, the stuff going through your first house, though, once Venus comes in on the 22nd, or sorry, on the 16th into your first house, you'll feel like a hot fucking bitch, yo. You're gonna want to sparkle. You're gonna want to attract attention. You always have my attention. So all this stuff moving through your first house. Mercury's there right now too. You see, this is a wonderful time where we feel quick and intelligent. We make connections, we're articulate, all that sort of stuff. So you see, this is great for you. Now, the elephant in the room that I was mentioning earlier is Saturn in your second house. So it feels like you're struggling a lot too. Materially. Both of us are, right? I mean, we have a sense of it. I mean, struggle is different for everyone, but you're having a difficult time right now, probably either making ends meet or feeling like you're secure or having enough. Either you're having to be more frugal or to budget more or to forgo things that you're used to do. Maybe you can't have the Mountain Dew that you're typically used to having. That's always a terrible thing to give up. But I would rather give up that than some other things. Yeah. Oh, Jupiter going through your fourth house. So I'm hoping that something beneficial has come up from your past, either having to do with your father or your family legacy. Maybe it was something to do with money in particular, because Jupiter rules your second house of money. So maybe like your dad owed you money, or there was some money owed to you, or something came from a hidden source. I'm not sure, but I think of something like that for you, and I hope that's happened. Now, Jupiter's going to go into your 5th house in May here around my birthday. But you see, that'll be more to do with your fun and your romance. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping for both of us. Jupiter going into our 5th house will usher in some fun and some pleasure, because I can't get enough. I just can't get enough. And you see, this puts Rosie's Venus in her 5th house. Right? I have Mars in my 5th house. And my Sun. It makes us very sexual people. I mean, yeah, we're creative, we're interesting, but we're very sexual. And Rosie's a Saturn girl like I am. So, and she's got a very sort of similar aesthetic to me, sort of a gothy aesthetic. And she's, if I recall, she's very much into ICP, which is so funny. I've had a couple of girlfriends who've been all into ICP. It's so funny. Anyway, you do have good stuff that's going to happen, Rosie. It's not all bad. Okay? It's not. And especially here coming up through February and March, you should get a sense of being alive and feeling more confident about yourself, feeling physically better, perhaps, having more energy. You see? So I want you to look forward to things, and especially Jupiter going through your 5th house, right? Let's have fun. Bum, bum, boom, boom. Yeah. Bum, bum, boom, boom. Hell yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, let me see what she's saying on the chat because I can't see.
She said it's a joke and I don't care. She
Oh.
said whoop whoop.
It's a joke and I don't care. I don't care. I'm just saying I love you, Rosie. That's all. I think you're wonderful. And then we'll get to Nettie. I probably won't even get to talk about Mars and Aquarius.
It's only 57 after. We can stop the chart readings at 8:30 so you can talk about the Mars Pluto thing.
It's funny how you said it's only 57 after. I just would have rounded. I would have been like, oh, it's only 6 or whatever. But no, okay, well, that's my time. And then your time's different. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I just would have rounded. Rosie, and I love you, sweetheart. I do.
Love you too, and we appreciate you.
Yes, we do. And there's more good stuff that's about to happen. And always remember that whatever situation you find yourself in, it's never going to stay the same, for good or for ill. So anyway, I guess let's get to Nettie. I hope that was enough for you, Rosie. I hope we gave you enough. I hope I gave you enough, Rosie. Are you satisfied, Rosie? I'm sorry. Okay, Nettie, are you satisfied, Rosie? Nettie.
Okay. It's the February 13th, 1985. 7:47 p.m. Parramatta, Australia. I hope I didn't botch that pronunciation.
Oh, it's another Aussie. Another Aussie. You are satisfied. Good, Rosie. Oh, wait, shit. I'm showing my fucking screen right now. I shouldn't be doing that. Stop share. Ugh. I hate that. One of these political YouTubers. Nettie, what's up, yo? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Hi, Hector.
Hi, Hector. One of these YouTubers I follow, or not follow, but like, I watch a lot of political YouTubers, and one of these guys, he opened up his porn folder by accident on a live stream, and he had some fucked up shit in there. Like horse pictures and like I can't even describe it, but I mean, the worst you're gonna see on here is pictures of me because that's all I have. But I don't want everyone to see all my other stuff, like my Amazon. Let me. So anyway, so we got Nettie, 1985, Australia. Excuse me. What's that, baby?
7:47 p.m.
I have that, yes. I think I
Okay,
got
just
it.
want to be sure.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, sweetheart.
Oh, Melissa, if you say it's effed up, it must be very effed up. Oh, everything's effed up.
What's effed up?
Everything.
Everything. Everything, everything, everything. You can all kiss off into the air. Behind my back, I can see them stare. They hurt me bad, but I don't mind. They hurt me bad, they do it all the time. Yeah, yeah, they do it all the time. Yeah, yeah, they do it all the time, 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 time. That's the Violent Femmes. I saw them live a couple of times. The Violent Femmes. You don't know about the Violent Femmes, Amber. That's before your time. You have to be a Saturn girl to know the Violent Femmes. Who does anyone know the Violent Femmes? Watching Violent Femmes. The Violent Femmes. No, you don't. Okay, no one knows the Violent Femmes. They did that song. Let me go wild, like a blessed star in the sun. Let me go wild. Big hands, I know you're the one. Do 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 do. No, none of you remember. None of you remember that stuff. Anyway, so we got Nettie, who's a Leo rising. So if things don't work out with me and Rosie. I'm kidding, Rosie. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
She wants everyone. Everyone just flock to her.
Who?
You.
Oh, me. I know. I'm awful. I'm awful. I'm an attention whore. And I shouldn't say the W word. I'm an attention. I don't know what. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. I mean, all that stuff in your 7th house, the first thing I think of is someone is a little bit codependent, and then you have daddy issues. Saturn's in the 4th house, and so Saturn is, I mean, whenever I see this, especially, well, with anyone, I shouldn't specify. I think of either an absent or abusive father who either wasn't there, created a very unstable or austere or generally unfriendly or uncomfortable environment. It's not a great feeling. Difficulties with dad, and Pluto's there too. So it feels like a broken home, probably. Or very, very strict, you see. And then Saturn square your sun. So you learn to internalize a lot of that stuff, didn't you? To be your own worst enemy, or rather your own worst critic. And what do you see here? You see the sun is exactly opposite the ascendant. And we have sort of, I hate aspect patterns. I think they're stupid. But, you know, for modern astrologers out there, we've got a T-square. A T-square. It's a T-square. It's two fucking squares, yo. It's the ascendant square Saturn and the sun square Saturn. First of all, this makes it very difficult when it comes to our self-confidence. We beat the fuck out of ourselves on the inside, don't we? Why have enemies when you have yourself? I caught that shit. That was cool. Why have enemies when you have yourself? Because no one can beat you up like you can, right? You're not good enough, are you? People won't like you if they learn what you're really like. You know, you're an imposter. You know, we treat ourselves like that voice in our head, like our parents in the back of our head. You know, even when we escape abuse, we continue it on ourselves. We abuse ourselves because we don't feel our own self, our own value. You know, so when the sun is in the 7th house, it makes us really, really want that sense of security and that we get from a partnership. We focus on other people. You might find yourself as an assistant to someone else or in a service industry or something like that, someone who's service oriented, you know. But the big lesson here is that you don't find your value through someone else. Look where your North Node is in the 10th house. What's the 10th house? It's accomplishment. It's what you fucking do. It's your life direction. It's making things real. You see? It's the pink pineapple. So you see, you have all this heavy baggage from your past. I mean, the Saturn is conjunct your South Node. It's the stuff we bring in with us, right? The psychological issues, the insecurities. And so it all consists of your genealogy and your past. Your past feels like it's weighing you down, but guess what? It's not there. It's already gone. The weight is here psychologically, right? You need to learn to see what you do fucking well. You need to learn to see what you've already accomplished because you've come this far. Not a lot of people make it this far, do they? And you've made it here. So take some pride in the work you've done. Take some fucking pride. Stop beating yourself like an Opus Dei monk, right? Oh. You know, I'm not looking at the chat, so I don't know what you're saying if you're telling me I'm full of shit or what. But I'm just saying what I'm getting from this, you know, from reading it and from, you know, the impressions that I get. You know, you're a very deep person. You got Venus conjunct Mars in the 9th house. You probably also had a bad experience of religion or spirituality growing up, but you also crave that and you crave that meaning. Venus rules your 3rd house and your 10th house. So I wonder if you have anything to do with academia at all. Maybe, I don't know. Or the law, or being a paralegal or something, or a lawyer, or involved in spirituality or religion in some way. I don't know. But we do often see that. But life at this point now, you're about my age, just a couple years younger. At this point in your life, you should be starting to get more concerned with making your mark, with achieving things, with building up your own fucking empire. And the past that weighs you down is something you're going to be processing for a long time, but you only process it and overcome it by doing things. accomplishing things. And I have to remind myself of that too, because I like to talk. Oh, I would so do this or do that. No, what have you done? What have you done? When you write a resume, they don't want to see what you think you do. They want to see what you've done. Reality. You understand me? You have a fifth house moon, though. Very sexy. Enjoying this. Well, you're Australian. Australians know how to fucking party, yo. I got a lot of Aussie friends. I got a shitload of Aussie clients. First of all, you motherfuckers can drink. I tell you what. Jiminy Christmas. But you're nothing like Eastern Europeans. You know, that's like culture to them. But also, you guys have a good sense of humor. And you always use the C word. And usually in a nice way. Like, I know if you're calling me the C word, it's sort of a nice thing. I mean, I am the C word. In Australia, they had this whole ad campaign. It was like a tourism thing. It was see you in the NT. See you in the NT. You know, pretty funny stuff. Now, right now, you've got Jupiter going through your 10th house, which it's like, you know, this is a time to start manifesting. What the fuck is manifesting? It's making shit happen. That's what manifesting is, doing things. So again, when Jupiter goes through our 10th house like this, we get new opportunities. We change life direction sometimes, but in a good way. Or we get more reaffirmed in our life direction, you see? Saturn's going through your 8th house right now, which is very difficult. It's a sense of loss. You can have a financial loss or a death that actually happens. Now, that's not super likely that it's an actual death, but I have to say it. I have to say that that's a possibility. So, but more often than not, it's a sense of loss. Either we lose a car or whatever. It's something that we have to buy on credit or on loan or using debt. And we have to dig ourselves out of these sort of material holes. So just be aware of it. I have Saturn going through my 2nd house. It's the same thing. Now, on the one hand, it's the sense of loss and having to struggle with that money and finance. On the other hand, it's also building that sort of stuff up. It's learning how to take responsibility for your finances, learning how to budget ourselves and manage our resources or other people's. So that's a quite important thing you have going on, you see? Excuse me. You're about to have Mars enter your 7th house now, tonight. So if you are with a partner, it will get rocky, you see? And why do I say that? Well, I say that because Mars going through the 7th house often introduces conflicts in relationships. And the thing about that, you see, is these conflicts that erupt while Mars is in our 7th house, sometimes they can spill over into the future. That's why we have to be very careful not to be impulsive and not to be selfish and not to be overly aggressive, because we can regret the things that we say later after we recognize the gravity of the consequences. You know, you might not want to break up with your partner whatsoever, but you say some mean shit, or they do, and it's really difficult to take back. This is why, while Mars is going through the 7th house, we have to be especially attentive and sensitive. And I don't mean sensitive in like a personal way. I mean aware of what signals our partner is giving off. And I hate to say, like, you know, being aware of what they're feeling or whatever, because that's the whole empath bullshit, where we assume that we know what other people are feeling, and we don't. We don't. It's a bunch of bullshit. You want to know how someone feels, you ask them. But the people do give off nonverbal signals and nonverbal cues. And we can be what? We can be sensitive to those. We can be aware of those. No one reads anyone's fucking mind, but we can learn to read the what? The signs, just like astrology. You know, like I said earlier, I don't believe in all the psychic nonsense, right? But I do get impressions. I experience that. I don't believe in all the fucking empath nonsense. But again, once again, I get impressions of how people may feel, and I get impressions of what things may mean in their charts. Are there other sorts of communication that are happening on more subtle levels? I'm sure there are, right? But I'm not going to sit here and put my confidence in things that I have no clue about, if that makes sense. And I do know about astrology, at least reading the signs. As far as the mechanisms go for how it works, I have my own theories, but that's me. So anyway, all this stuff is going into your 7th house. Now that means Venus is going to go in here too, right? And that will be lovely, but it'll be very temporary respite, because then Venus will go into malefic enclosure, meaning she will be wedged in between Mars in Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces, which means she won't be able to do anything good for you until after the end of March. But she will ease up your financial situation a little bit. You might notice that you get a little gift in some way. Sometime in March, maybe towards the end. Maybe it seems like you get some good recognition at work. Maybe you get a little raise, maybe you get a little bonus, or maybe a sibling helps you out in some way. Or it could be something to do with media. And not just a sibling, it could be an aunt, uncle, cousin, right? Any member of the extended family that helps you out in some way. So you got a lot of good stuff going on too, sweetheart. So don't be too fucking chapped about all this, you know. Who is next, Amber?
I don't see anybody.
You don't see anybody?
I don't see anybody else.
Let me go to the chat really quick, and then we could talk about Mars and Aquarius. Saturn Girl takes Spotify. I think the world needs more of you. I think so too. And Nettie, I'm not saying it's necessarily your car. I'm saying that we have big purchases that we have to make because something breaks or whatever. I don't know. Oftentimes we have to, or get big repairs. There's a sense of loss, you see. There's a sense of loss. And I really hope there's nothing, you know, especially severe or whatever, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you. The 8th house mostly has to do with money, debt, right? Taxes, but especially debt, Okay, take care. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, she's got a new boyfriend, and I was just telling her about Mars in her 7th house. That's not very nice. That's not very nice. You see? I'm amazing, thank you. I'm sorry, but the name Frankie sounds so foreign to me now, bit by bit. Like, more people are calling me Saturn Girl. When I go to, like, grown-up parties and stuff, I go by Saturn Girl. When I go to kink events, I go by Saturn Girl. I even make sexual partners call me Saturn girl sometimes. It's very fun. So I think more and more I'm just going to be like, hey, call me Saturn girl. Because I have to start dominating that name. I saw some other fucking imposters out there that are called Saturn girl. And it's like, nah, not this little fuck. Not that little fuck. None of y'all little fucks out there. I'm Saturn. Anyway. We should talk about Mars and Aquarius now that we have a couple minutes, shouldn't we? JC says hi. JC. The Hova. Hova. Come on, that was good.
That is hilarious.
A to the Izzo, V to the Izay. Anyway, come on, Amber, you love it. Your cats are Neptune and Jupiter.
Aw.
That's very sweet. My cats are Castor and Pollux. I wonder if the ex that I got the cats from ever watches. That would be interesting.
Ew, don't bring that up.
I'm sorry. I just like I have these thoughts. I have these thoughts. But let me I should start talking about this, shouldn't I? Where is the transits for today? I feel bad about Rosie. I feel like I didn't tell her enough. She's having a hard situation like you, Amber. I mean, different, but this is the trans. Oh, let me animate the page. Animation.
I'm starving. How about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna need to eat right after this, for sure.
Me too.
For sure. I got a bunch of chicken in the fridge that's already cooked. So I thought about like chopping it up and making chicken salad sandwiches. I don't know.
Salad.
It's a lot of mayonnaise and stuff. Like I feel like you know.
I use olive mayonnaise in mine, though.
I do too. I use olive oil mayonnaise. But anyway.
I think it tastes better.
It does taste better. It tastes less oily. It does. It does. But anyway, I should read off, not read off, but like talk about this bullshit I was going to talk about because I had notes about it. Mars conjunct Pluto. Mars conjunct Pluto. Mars is about to conjoin Pluto and enter Aquarius tonight at I think it's like 11 something p.m. my time. So it's just a few hours away. Mars, our malefic master of malice. He's going into Aquarius just before midnight, I guess. And since he's entering Aquarius, that means he's going to conjoin Pluto, right? What's Pluto? Our denizen of dominance, isn't he? And Pluto right now is at 0 degrees, right? 43 minutes. And we see Mars, 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 Mars. Look, Mars has entered Aquarius there. Oh, wait, you can't see it. I didn't share my screen. Thank you for letting me be stupid, Amber. That was wonderful.
Well, I gotta let you mess up sometimes.
I mean, I know. So you see, Mars has just entered Aquarius there. Beautiful. It's my first house, right? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what this means and like, maybe talk about a couple brief horoscopes for each rising sign. So we'll go through really quick. But first of all, what does Mars mean in astrology? I mean, he's our aggression, right? He's our drive. He's violence, conflict. He's also injuries and illnesses, which is where we get some of the meaning of the sixth house from. He's also valor, right? Being valiant. He's courage, and he's victory. And then what does Pluto mean, right? Pluto is will and power, domination. He's also wealth, death, destruction. He's like Shiva, you see, in Indian mythology. Hidden things from the depths and precious things from below the earth, like gems and minerals and oil. And Pluto got a lot of his symbolism from Pluto, right? The Greek god of the underworld who slowly replaced Hades, right? Same fucking thing. Also Plutus, who is the Greek god, the personification of wealth, you see. Think about the word plutocracy, right? That's a government that's run by the wealthy, isn't it? Sound familiar? And then Pluto was also discovered around the time atomic energy was becoming a thing. So we see Pluto associated with nuclear power and unleashing the hidden power of the atom, both as energy and as a weapon. We also see Pluto sort of digging up the dead, don't we? Yielding discoveries of that which is long past. Right? Think of old bones, archaeological things. Now, when we see these two joined together by transit in a conjunction, we primarily see what? Struggles for domination. Last time that Mars conjoined Pluto was March 2nd of 2022. Like, this was literally a week before February 24th, right? Which was what? When Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. Mars was approaching its conjunction with Pluto. It was just a few degrees away. And the invasion of Ukraine is such a Mars-Pluto event because essentially Russia was trying to, what? And force them into submission. Dominance, right? Meanwhile, right, the US immediately tried to do the same thing to Russia as a response. I mean, for example, countries of the world, internationally, led by the United States, imposed very crippling sanctions on Russia, right? With good reason, of course. But still, they were using, or we were using, I suppose, financial pressure to force them into submission. That's very Plutonian, isn't it? Then on March 1st, during his State of the Union address, President Biden called out Vladimir Putin for his invasion of Ukraine, saying basically like, yo, bruh, you fucked up. Right? But just 2 days after that, Russian troops seized the largest nuclear plant in Europe. And if you remember at the time, US officials were scared because, you know, they were thinking, gosh, this could be a meltdown to rival Chernobyl. But you can see how transits like this often spark big events. And these events carry on for some time, right? Mars has a cycle of about 2 years, right? Takes them about 2 years to round the zodiac. So it's like this conjunction that's happening today represents the culmination of this previous Mars-Pluto cycle. I think the situation in Ukraine is about to change drastically. I'm just not sure what. I think we'll see more violence before we see less. But there's a culmination of something going on. Another interesting event that I thought was cool was, so around the time this was all happening in 2022, there was a ship of a famous explorer named Ernest Shackleton. And it was rediscovered in Antarctica after having sank in 1915. You see, so bringing shit up from the depths, from the past. And then a few days after that, right, Johns Hopkins University announces that the global death toll from COVID surpassed 6 million. Right? This is, Pluto's dominance. This is the dominating illness, right? Mars is illness. And then the day after that, Florida passes their Don't Say Gay bill, which is basically a violent suppression of the LGBTQ community. Again, trying to force us all into submission. And it's not the kind of submission that we like. Well, what about your natal charts? What if you have this aspect in your birth chart? Well, number one, these people know how to get what the fuck they want. In fact, they get laser focused on what they want. And they get very impatient about getting it. Sort of like a predator stalking her prey. Right? I think of, you ever see Alice in Wonderland? Remember the walrus and the carpenter? Yeah. The walrus and the carpenter, they befriend a dozen oysters, don't they? Succulent, succulent oysters with lemon and horseradish. But they're still alive at this point, okay? Of course, the walrus and the carpenter intended to eat them. But while the carpenter was preparing, all the stuff to cook the oysters, the walrus just ate them all raw, which is how I would eat them, right? With lemon and horseradish. He couldn't help himself. It is kind of a selfish placement, isn't it? But you see the sort of thing I'm indicating here. It's like that intense drive and hunger. And just, take what it wants. Now, some celebrity examples of this are Robert Downey Jr., right? And you can see the Plutonian experience he had. He went to hell and back earlier in his career, right? From drug addiction and alcohol abuse, only to be reborn as Iron Man, right? That revived his career and made him one of the highest paid actors in the world. Talk about Pluto, right? His tenacity and drive, though, Mars, is what gave him the power to claw himself out of the depths of despair. Oh, and one of my favorites, Marissa Tomei, and she actually dated Robert Downey Jr. too. Very interesting. But think of her character in My Cousin Vinny, right? Do you ever see My Cousin Vinny? Ms. Mona Lisa Vito, right? Oh my goodness. Remember how impatient she sounded when she was talking about her biological clock ticking? Her whole character throughout that movie is very Mars Pluto, right? Where she's like, yo, that's a bullshit question. There was no Chevy Bel Air with the whatever. I don't remember all the lines, but it was very sort of like remember Joe Pesci says, Your Honor, may I request to treat this witness as hostile? That's the Mars Pluto thing. It's the hostility. It's refusing to submit in many ways and imposing your own power. Last year, though, it was interesting that Marissa Tomei was attending a party, a Broadway after party. And as she was leaving, a bunch of fans were demanding that she take selfies with them. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it. Gotta go. And they got really upset and aggressive, right? And so they had to call the cops and all this sort of thing. But it's just sort of indicative of the Mars-Pluto conflicts that we sort of get ourselves into. Power struggles. And then we have Eminem. Yes, I'm Slim Shady. Yes, I'm the real savior. Right? Now, similar to Robert Downey Jr., He had a messed up childhood too, surrounded by addiction and abuse. Slim Shady also had to claw his way out of the depths of hell to achieve international success, didn't he? He's also famous for being a hothead. Now, Marshall Mathers has repeatedly jumped off stage, reportedly, but repeatedly too. Several times he's jumped off stage to fight heckling and taunting fans in the crowd, right? Now, it's funny because we think his Mars is in Libra, which is sort of, using your words more than your hands. But when Pluto comes out, it's like, damn. So, also look at all the feuds he's been into, right? Well, what about Mars and Aquarius? Well, we know what Mars is, don't we? But what about Aquarius? It's a Saturn-ruled sign, isn't it? And it's sort of like Saturn turned outwards, while Capricorn is Saturn turned inwards. Natives with Mars and Aquarius are often quite idealistic, aren't they? They're very concerned with how things should be. And they're very quick to call out injustice or unfair situations. Like, I think of Michelle Obama as an example, who famously called out mass food production for its lack of nutrition. Remember, she had this whole White House garden thing that she really pushed. And she was very big in supporting children's nutrition. I also think of Tupac Shakur, who famously said, what? We have money for war, but we can't feed the poor. Aquarius is also forward thinking. And we see people who strive to change society. Like, I think of activist and actress Jane Fonda, right? Who was famous for her opposition to the Vietnam War, and most recently in her demonstrations against climate change. We also see whistleblowers who are committed to exposing the truth, like Julian Assange, who started WikiLeaks. Or another interesting one is Nicholas Copernicus, the famous 15th century astronomer, right, who became historically famous for saying that the Earth revolved around the sun and not the other way around. Well, we also see idiots who get intoxicated by conspiracy theories, people like Elon Musk or former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, or famous aviator Howard Hughes, right? Howard Hughes used to keep his own urine in jars all around his place, and he was too afraid to leave his apartment because he was afraid Freemasons were trying to get him. Well, we also just see other general weirdos like Christopher Walken. But we love Christopher Walken. But what does this mean for you in transit? What does this mean for you? Well, remember the key phrase here for Mars conjoining Pluto is power struggles. So the whole sign house that Mars is entering for you will indicate where these struggles take place. So let's look at each of the rising signs. Let's start with Aries, right? My dear Aries. So this means Mars is entering your 11th house to conjoin Pluto, isn't it? So the struggles here are primarily with people who try to help you, right? So don't shoot yourself in the fucking foot, yo. Because what matters here is that we don't alienate ourselves. There might be a sense of wanting to get into struggles for dominance with friends, perhaps, because you feel like you are right, you see? But what you need to remember is that keeping alliances intact can be quite beneficial for you for the future. So be careful and don't alienate yourself, as I said, because these struggles can come back and bite you in the butt when you really need help. But how about Taurus rising? So for Taurus rising, this means Mars and Pluto are entering your 10th house, right? Or Mars is coming into your 10th house to conjoin Pluto. So these power struggles are happening at work, typically. or happening with bosses or authority figures, where you feel like other people are trying to control you. So instead, what do you want to do? You want to control them in reverse, don't you? There's a sense of violently wanting to maintain your autonomy or trying to get your point across and make yourself heard. This can oftentimes lead to us wanting to quit a particular job. But rather than doing that, oftentimes we have to see, right, how we can make that situation at work better, or how we can reconcile sometimes, because oftentimes it's our bosses or these associations we have that get us good recommendations for future positions. But anyway, for Gemini rising, this is the 9th house emphasized. So when Mars enters the 9th house conjunct Pluto, we feel like we are the Messiah, don't we? We're always right. Our view of the world, of spirituality, of religion is the correct way. My way is the correct way. And this can get us into lots of conflicts and arguments around these sorts of ideals. And sometimes it's way more trouble than it's worth, isn't it? So before you find yourself embroiled in all these sorts of idealistic or ideological battles, ask yourself how worth it is, because you're probably not going to change anyone's mind, you see. Now for Cancer rising, this is the 8th house. So of course we know the 8th house is debt or death, but we also know that it is debt. And so there are financial struggles that erupt as Mars goes into this house. Sometimes it feels like there are hidden expenses that come out of nowhere, right? These are more abrupt and not as difficult as the Saturnian ones, but still quite difficult because oftentimes it feels like we have a sudden expense that happens that we did not expect, or we've spent too much money. Our eyes get way bigger than our checkbooks, you see? So the trick and the lesson here is to learn how to restrain ourselves and to budget ourselves, to have a plan for how the month will go or the next several months, because we're going to be quite impulsive and we're going to have to refer back to that plan in order to remind ourselves not to screw ourselves for later. You see? Now then, Leo rising, all this stuff enters the 7th house. And we talked with a couple people earlier. All this stuff going into the 7th house is explosive when it comes to relationships. And we have to be quite careful during this time that we don't say or do things, or perhaps it's our partner that does, that could stimulate a bigger rift later. Some of the things that we could do or say during this time could erupt into a breakup if we're not careful. But sometimes these eruptions also make us more aware of problems that had been unaddressed below the surface, you see. So if you have conflicts, try and make them creative and reconcile quickly. If you want the relationship to survive, maybe you become aware that it shouldn't survive, and that you really, for your own sanity, need to move on. But then for Virgo rising, this is the 6th house, you see. When these guys go into the 6th house, we suddenly find that we have to take responsibility for things. Oftentimes we start developing lists. We realize that there's all these things that we left undone. And Mars rejoices in the 6th house because he gets the drive to make it happen, to do things, you see. So that's quite important because you should use this energy here to get things done that you've been avoiding. Now, on the other hand, though, it can also cause burnout, and it can also get you sick. So please try and rest. It's very important, because burnout, you'll get way less done. And getting sick, you have to recuperate. So it's better to take things evenly and measured so that you don't pay for it more later. And then we've got Libra rising, which gives us the 5th house, Mars entering here in Aquarius. And this is our children, right? The 5th house of children and sex. So on the one hand, if you're a parent, you'll see your kids get to be a real pain in the ass. Like, this is power struggles with the kids. They fight us every which way, right? They can't just let us enjoy life or get things done. They keep having to make things difficult, and they're very willful, but it will get better. Now, the other thing that happens while Mars is in the 5th house is we get very amorous. You know, we really, really want some action. You know, we want pleasure. And it can be quite frustrating because it's like we don't get enough. We don't get enough. We're not, it's like, I need to have more. I need more. It's like how I feel right now. Different placement. And then we've got Scorpio rising, right? This is the 4th house that all this stuff is in. And this is typically power struggles with our parents, if they're still alive. If not, it usually is having to do with their legacy or our past. Sometimes it could have to do with our living situation, with landlords or roommates or things like that. But typically the 4th house is what? Our parents, our private lives, and our genealogy, our past, our origins. So it could feel like you need to make a break with your past in some way too. Maybe it's been feeling like a burden or weighing you down. You need to release yourself from that sort of thing in order to feel free enough to move on. But then for Sagittarius rising, we've got all the entourage in the 3rd house. And that's communication, siblings, extended family, our immediate community. So we do see struggles with family, like, you know, not our parents. I mean, like brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, that sort of stuff. But very literally, it could also be our own sense of, I mean, it's also short journeys. We see lots of road rage, trying to dominate other people on the road, you know, trying to dominate other people in our daily routines, you know, or through media, social media and stuff too, or news media. You know, there's a lot of aggression that comes out in our expressions, whether it's driving or communicating. But we will tend to say aggressive things and have harsh words. So once again, we need to be aware of not being so impulsive. Number one, because we could hurt other people, but number two, because we could hurt ourselves. And then we've got Capricorn rising. And the entourage moves into the 2nd house of money once again. So the opposite of the 8th house. So this often indicates us being impulsive with spending money in general. It's not necessarily the big losses or the big expense, but it's us burning through our own resources, not being mindful, wasting things. Sometimes it's retail therapy. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I'd really like to have that. But you have to be careful here because this will make your money scarce and you will regret it later. So once again, similar to the 8th house, plan yourself out, a budget or a limit of what you can spend that month so that you can attend to your expenses in the future. Don't be silly. And then for Aquarius rising, this is me and my people. All of our entourage is going into the 1st house. This is transformational, right? But also, we're going to get a lot of aggression and drive and conflict around our sense of self. You see, we get more confidence when Mars leaves the 12th house and enters the 1st. It's like we come out of isolation. We feel incredibly assertive. We feel powerful, dare I say. But once again, it makes us impulsive, and we tend to rush around, and we are very prone to accidents and hurting ourselves. So the key here is to take caution and to think before we act, because we don't want to, have to heal from some injury later. Can make life more difficult. So take your time, right? And before you just try and impose what you want on someone else, think about the ramifications. Think about consequences. Be mindful. Well, and then there's Pisces rising, and the entourage enters the 12th house, which is the isolating part. This is where we sort of retreat. This is where we feel lonely and agitated. In fact, we want people to leave us alone. We need our space right now, aggressively so. This is where we sort of have to face our own self-destructive tendencies. You see, when Mars goes through our 12th house, oftentimes we find ourselves going back to them, right? Whether it's, substances or anger or whatever, pushing people away. We have to face these difficult things. We have to face our tendencies towards self-destruction oftentimes. It's a regular occurrence that happens every couple of years. But you see, we have to weather through it temporarily. And then it brings us to the next phase where we get into the first house again, and we're like, the impulse control goes out the window. So anyway, that's all important stuff. I'm going to clip this later, perhaps as a video, you see, for horoscopes and everything. But I hope it's useful to you right now as well. It's almost. Amber, I'm so sorry. I've been talking for a long time.
No, you're fine.
I know I am.
You are.
JC, how do we get a read? Oh, and we went off on the other stuff. So everyone's probably gone now then.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Everyone's gone. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
If you can hear us.
If you can hear us. I don't know who's still here.
Maybe we're just talking to each other. Who knows?
I mean, shit. Isn't that what we always do?
Always. Either that or we're talking to ourselves. One of the two.
I know. I'm about to do that right now. I'm hungry, and I have to finish editing my Saturn video. Saturn in the second house.
I know I have pizza waiting for me.
Oh, you lucky dog. I gotta cut chicken into something.
We'll make a chicken salad. You got celery, right?
I got what?
Celery?
No, I don't have celery, but I don't really need to use celery. I'll just use onions. I'll just do onions, chicken, mayo, mustard, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. Oh, I'll chop up some pickles. I'll chop up some pickles. And
Will you save me one? Because I love pickles.
What's that?
Will you save me one? Because I love pickles.
Yes, I'll save you a pickle, just like, like, here's one for me and one for my homies. You don't know about that, do you? It's old school. It's like, the old gangster rappers used to like pour some of their 40 out for their passed away homies. Anyway, we love you all, and thank you for coming and all that wonderful stuff.
Yes, we appreciate it. I hope everyone has a good night.